Alyssa Twist Light is a keynote speaker who teaches people how to cultivate the connections and build the relationships that move business forward. A self-proclaimed lover of events, Twist's mission is to make meeting planners look like superheroes and their attendees feel like rock stars. She also has a number of other talents that we're going to dig into here on the podcast. Here to help us get more connected is Twist. Welcome to the podcast, Twist.
Welcome to the Engaging Personalities Podcast. I'm Anders Belanger, founder and CEO of Engagify, where we're on a mission to rehumanize business through engagement. We believe that we can all be more successful if we can command attention and deepen connection. So stick around to the end of the show and we'll reveal how you can be our next guest on a future episode. So let's get ready to engage.
Thanks. Welcome to your podcast, Anders.
No one's ever welcomed me to my own podcast. She's already building connection. Thank you. All right,
You're welcome. Well, since nobody has ever asked you that, and since we're just kicking this off, maybe I could suggest that sometime we flip the script and I'll interview you for your podcast.
Oh, see, I like this. It's already, for anyone who's listened to this podcast for some time, you're already going like, they're like, reality's being shaken. This is not how it goes. She's shaking things up. So Twist, I've known you for, I don't know, a few years, I guess, since Calgary.
No, like 18 months, not even a couple.
Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
You're an old soul. I feel like I've known you for like that. But yeah, Calgary CAPS convention, so a speakers convention here in Canada. That's where we met. And you were just a very unique person. And it's easy to get to know you, and it makes sense that you talk about what you talk about. So before we talk about what you talk about, how did you, let's rewind a little bit. How did you get into speaking? How did you come about? Because I know you've kind of got an interesting past in terms of, you know, skills and things that you've done. So you maybe just kind of tell us about it so they get to know you a bit.
So like a number of people do, I have a different way that I got into speaking. Lots of us fall into it. And so I did a presentation that was a no-fee presentation about, 10 or 12 years ago. And they said, hey, that was great. Can you come back and do it for the rest of our staff? And I said, sure, I can do that. And somebody in that particular audience said, hey, Twist, this was great. Can you come and do this for my summer camp staff? And I said, sure, I can do that. And it snowballed from there. So I called a peer that you and I have, Sanjay Nath, whom I had hired in the past. And I said, Sanjay, is this a thing people get paid for? See, I was transitioning at the time. I used to be a tradesperson. I was a goldsmith and couldn't practice my trade anymore, unfortunately. And so I came into, tried out a bunch of other things and then fell into this world of speaking. And so Sanjay said to me, absolutely, you can do that. And at the time, I remember he said to me, tell them you charge $2,000. And I was like, like, I can't get paid that much. What are you talking about? So he helped me along a little bit, getting into the industry. And I learned about National Speakers Association. Their convention was coming up. And then I learned about CAPS when I was at NSA, actually. So that was interesting. And that was a number of years ago. And then I have built things over the years. I was mostly in trades to begin with, and now have done some corporate engagements and, of course, do client work and have built an agency that focuses on content development to engage audiences. And that spans a number of different things, as you know.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, and just going back to Sanjay, Sanjay is from the CAPS, Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. He's the one I've known the longest because we met when we were both in high school at a Canadian Youth Against Impaired Driving, conference.
Yeah.
And so then I didn't see him for like 20 years and then, well, maybe not 20 years, but something like that. And then met up with him again. So
all right, wait. Then I got to tell you a story. This is the greatest story. So I got my nickname about 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
And, but there were a few people who knew me before that. And Sanjay was one of those people. And so when I got into speaking, he was like, hey, I'll mentor you. Can you come babysit my kids? And I was like, yes. So I would drive an hour once a week or twice a week to go and babysit his kids. And then he'd give me some coaching. And so that was a number of years ago. And his little one was only about 18 months old at the time. So Anyway, he fast forward to last year, and I was at an engagement that he helped me secure early on that I'd done for, I don't know, probably 10 years in a row. It was an annual youth convention. And this young man walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, Alyssa." And I was like, "Who are you? My mom?" Like, nobody calls me that. And he looks at me and he goes, "No, but you'll know my last name." And I just sort of looked at him and he goes, "Nath." And it was Sanjay's oldest kid. I used to walk him to
Oh, wow.
kindergarten. So we got
Yeah.
this great picture. He like jumped in my arms and we had this big picture. It was a really special moment.
Oh, that's cool. That's so
Hmm.
cool.
Hmm.
So going back to your nickname, how did you get being called Twist?
Oh my gosh. So I had finished goldsmithing school, was trying to start a little business, always had my foot in business and social services in some way and in the arts, have often tried to put those things together. And I had always wanted to work at summer camp, like I just wanted the experience in my life. It was a bucket list item. I want to work at overnight summer camp. I'd done the day camp thing a lot. And so I ended up securing a position as the program director for a Big Brothers Big Sisters camp. And when I got there, they said, "You will do something ridiculous and we will name you and you will be called this for the rest of your life." And I said, "I've been trying to get people to say my first name correctly for 20 some odd years. Not going to happen." So I was so careful. I am telling you, Anders, so careful all week. I didn't do anything ridiculous. I didn't make a fool of myself. Like, I was so careful because I did not want a nickname. Yeah. So then I drove some people into town, and coming out to of the shop where we were, I walk, I look left, I look right. I make sure there's no cars coming because I've paralleled. What do? I miss that there's a hitch on the back of my boat, or on the back of my car. It's my boat hitch. I trip over the hitch, fall into the street, twist both my ankles at the same time. And then I had to drive my standard car back to camp because nobody else could drive stick. And so they called me Twist, and I was so upset. I
What's
was
the
so upset.
twist?
I did not want this name. So forever in, I have been Twist, and for a long time, about half my life called me Twist, and half the people in my life rather called me Alyssa. And then it was when I did my first figure speaking gig. I don't know, probably 8-ish years ago now, something like that. And they spelled my name 4 different ways on the program, and they introduced me as 4 different people. And I said, "That's it. I'm gonna go by Twist. I have to figure this out."
Right.
And so then, so I've been Twist ever since, officially,
Wow.
if you will. I've considered
That's
changing my name, actually.
and it's not even that bad. It's Alyssa Light, isn't it? Is
Right.
that not
But like
right?
any version of Alicia, Eliza, Alyssa, Elizabeth,
Oh,
AU, any
okay.
version of white, right, light, or little, like
Right.
people spell it in 100 different ways. And then to make it
Okay.
all worse, my brother married a woman named Melissa. So
Oh,
then we
yeah,
had
yeah, yeah.
Melissa Light and Alyssa Light, and I was like,
Okay.
"Yep,
Because I had a similar problem when I was younger, doing magic. It was my last name's Boulanger, right? Or
yep,
Boulanger, but
yep."
they see Anders and they think it's Andre Boulanger,
Oh,
which is my dad. And then if they sound out Anders like
yep.
that, then I'm Anders Boulanger, right? So it's like it would never kind of work. And one time I was billed as Andre's Boulders, like in the paper, like the magic of Andre's Boulders. So I do feel for you, but I love
Oh,
that story. I love that story. And I think let's dig into this a little bit because you know what? When I met you, I'm like, oh, who's this Twist? She's amazing.
mhm,
Like you are very memorable, you know,
mhm,
and it's partly how you come across. It's
mhm.
your nickname helps,
It does
right?
help.
We can't see it right now, but you often have, you know, your hair colored. You know, it's
Underneath,
just like there it
underneath.
is, there
There
it
you
is.
go.
Yes, there
Yep,
it is. So,
yep,
I
yep.
mean, there's a lot. Have you always been kind of an outlier in
Yeah.
terms
Oh, yeah.
of, yeah,
Yep,
that's just who you are, and
yep.
that's just come across because I wondered, like, sometimes people go, oh, that's my calling card. Like they may, you know, you intentionally did the nickname and carried that through. Is there
I
anything
didn't
else
name
that
myself. I did not. I would like to protest. I did not choose my name.
chose to keep it? You keep it
Chose to keep
going.
it. Chose
You
to
keep
keep it.
it
I'll
going.
take that. I'll take that.
Yeah, because I mean,
Yep,
I asked, hey, do you have a
yep,
bio? Do you have an intro? You know, and you send it over and it's written out in
yep,
there, right?
yep,
So, you know,
yep.
but it's good. So that's good. Let's talk about what you talk about in terms of building connection, because I mean, that can mean different things to different people. You know, how do you define connection in the first place? And then let's dig into how do you build more of it?
Well, I think part of my ability to build connection comes from being really curious about how I couldn't build connection. I really struggled with the socially as a young person. And I actually, and lots of people don't know this, but I actually dropped out of high school 3 times before I graduated. And then I homeschooled myself to graduate, but I didn't graduate high school till after I went to college. So then I failed college the first time. And then because I was really interested in being involved, and so I was doing lots of other things, but I also just learn really well independently. Um, I did go back to college to finish my program. As far as I know, I'm the only person to ever go back and finish a goldsmithing program after failing it because it's, a trade is very different. I don't have to be certified as a goldsmith to set diamonds, for example. And, I was pretty successful in school. I don't know if you know this, I made the 20th anniversary gifts for Blue Rodeo. My work was shown in 12 galleries across the country. It was fun. It was a great time. And I still struggled to make really close connections. And I always liked sort of not intentionally, but really enjoyed things that other people don't necessarily enjoy. So, the iPhone came out in 2010, so I was through school at that point. But I had fallen in love with like actual, here's your camera photography. I mean, we didn't have them on our phones, right? And I always loved sewing. And actually, remind me about the Glynis story. I have the most fun story to tell you. And so what I thought to myself was, I'm way too serious. I took life so seriously. I'm way too serious. I'm basically scared of my own shadow. Like, how can I, yes, I'm fun and I have all these great connections and I've been to these really great places and I do these really cool things, but you know, the thing that people ask me is like, how do you know so many people? And why do you know so many people? And the answer was because I love to just learn about people. That was something that I always loved. And so as we learn about people, we can do fun things to create connection with them. Insert Glynis story here. So what happened when I was on with Glynis? By the way, Glynis E. Devine is a wonderful peer of ours. Isn't she fabulous? Yeah, she's pretty fabulous.
Montreal, yeah.
Montreal. So Glynis and I found out that Glynis also likes to sew her own clothing. And so I sent her a picture of some sew-in labels. So where most labels are like, this is size medium, here's what it's made of, and here's how to wash it, don't iron it. The labels that we can get as sewists say really fun things like made by midnight and swear words, or me, size you, or dream impossible things. And so I found one that said seize the day. And I sent a picture of them, and Glynis picked this one out in the photo, Anders. And she's like, oh my goodness, my saying is squeeze the day. Tell me where you got these. I would love to have some. And I was like, hey, watch this. I love gifting. I love gifting. It's one of my favorite things to do. Well, didn't I go on a Canadian supplier who makes custom labels? And so I went on and I had some made that said, squeeze the day, Glynis E. Devine. So all her clothes can now be totally custom.
Oh, wow.
And so, and it was the most magical thing, but she refused to give me her address. And I was like, Glynis, this was over text. Okay. I said, Glynis, what's your address? I'll pop one in the mail for you. Totally lying that I was actually going to send her a whole bunch with her own name on them. And she's like, oh, no, just tell me where you got them. The note I wrote back to her online said, I'm giving you a face. And she sent me her mailing address. So I sent her these. And I mean, I'm telling you, they just made her day. And
Yeah.
like little things like that, you don't have to pay for things to make connection. I could have literally just sent her a screenshot of what she could make herself. And that would have done it. That would have given her a very similar experience. And it's totally different when you send people stuff in the mail. So one of the ways that I create connections with people and really magical connections, if you will, is by sending people mail.
And it's that joy of giving, really, right? Like you're curious about people, you find something out, and then you see the connection. Well, this is a different type of connection. I mean, like a mental connection between something they would enjoy and something that you find. And by getting those two together, it feels good, right? So you get like a bit of a good jolt out of that, jolt of energy, if you will. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's
like
cool.
Can I tell you about a couple more just to give people some ideas?
No, I was just going to say, give us some more tips because I think our listeners want to create connection, especially because, what does this mean? If it can mean business, it can mean relationships, it can mean love life, all of that kind of stuff. There's so much good that can come out of connections.
Totally. Okay. So I'll give you a couple of examples. a couple tips rather. Let me give you a tip. Make sure that you're not sending somebody your branded stuff unless they ask for it. Nobody wants
Mm,
another pen that has your branded name on it, right?
right.
So if you're going to send somebody something, make it meaningful for them. And if you're like, twist, well, first of all, how do I get somebody's address? You ask them. It's very complicated. You just ask them. Okay. Also, and remember, yes, you want it to be a surprise. It'll still be a surprise, right? And people love to get mail. Like we get excited when we're buying the plane ticket, and then we get more excited when we get to the airport, right?
Mhm.
So they give you your address and then the package comes. So think about that. And then make sure that whatever you wrap it in, I shouldn't say make sure, if you can, if you are able to do this, wrap it in something that would mean something to them. So I'll give you an example. I may or may not have a substantial collection of washi tape. For anybody not familiar with washi tape, it is basically printed masking tape, but there's fun designs on it. And when I travel, I always love to go to little craft stores. And so, and I collect washi tape along the way. It's just a thing. It's little, I can put it in the bag, cost less than $10. I'm good to go. Well, I found some superhero washi tape. And there's a gentleman called Giovanni Marsico. I don't know if you're familiar with Gio. He owns a company called Archangel in Toronto. And they
Okay.
do events all over the place. Anyway, I was on a call with Gio and a bunch of other people, and somebody joked that he should be renamed Neovani, like from the Matrix. And I was like, haha, I know what I could do with this. Excuse me, I'm in a cabin, there's a mosquito. And so I was like, huh. And somebody says, someone should put that on a t-shirt. And I was like, I can do that. So I made him a t-shirt that said Neovani on it, and I put the Archangel logo on it. And I wrapped it in navy blue because that's like navy blue wrapping paper because that's the color of his business. And he loves superheroes. So I put superhero washi tape all the way around the package.
It's like a threefer right there.
Oh,
Like you kind of like
totally.
bang,
Mhm,
bang, bang.
totally.
So, but you have to know this about these people, right? So, I mean, part of it is that curiousness or that
Mhm, mhm,
inquisitiveness,
mhm,
to ask questions, to,
mhm.
you have to like people in the first place too. I think do you ever find that there are some people who just kind of go, oh, I can never do what you do? Like,
All
does
the
anyone
time.
ever say that?
All the
Yeah.
time.
What,
People say
what
that
do you
all the
say to
time.
them?
Okay, so let me give you an example. In September, and I know you asked me what do I say to them, but I'm going to give you an example instead. In September, I was in this like really cool office in Winnipeg, sitting across from, oh, you at your desk. And I pulled out my pen case and I opened it, and you were like, oh my gosh, where did you get that? And you said, my wife loves this sort of thing.
Hmm?
Where can I get it? And I said, I'll send you one. I haven't done that yet. Because, friend, do you know that I had to have it? I have finally found it. It just arrived a couple of weeks ago. No, I'm serious. I wasn't going to tell you this, but it matters for the story.
Okay.
And I found them. And to me, like, it doesn't matter where it comes from. And I understand carbon footprint is a thing for some people, and that's great. I still like to ship things, and I'm still going to ship things. Friend, I found them in the Netherlands. So I had them shipped, and I have one now for your wife. And I'm so excited, right?
Well, thank you.
You don't like it's people think, oh, I have to know so much about somebody. You
Right.
really don't. You really
Yeah.
don't. And for people who don't want to actually ship things or mail things, or if that's not financially accessible to you, I have a Canva account. In my Canva account, I have a file that says fun t-shirts. Okay. When I am on Zoom calls with people and they say funny things, I run over to Canva, I open it up, I change the t shirt to the funny thing that was said, I stick a graphic on it, and I put it in the Zoom chat. And I'll tell you, people think that this is hilarious. Hilarious. Like I did one day. Somebody was talking about how awful it is to scrape the internet for data and how thank goodness AI can help us do that now. So I went and made a t-shirt that literally had a paint scraper and it said old school internet scraper. And I put it in the chat. People thought it was hilarious, right? So now
Yeah.
sometimes when I show up, so first of all, sometimes I get hired to be the chat wizard in on Zoom calls now. People will be like, "Can I just pay you a little bit of money to show up and do fun things in the chat?" And I was like, "You absolutely can do that. Let me assist you." Right?
Uh,
So fun, right? And I just do it for fun, but then I get brought in to do things in calls. And sometimes this started happening about 2 years. It was during COVID anyway, Anders. I popped up on a chat one day, and it turned out that this person had seen me in somebody else's Facebook group. Those of you who are just listening to this and not actually watching, I
Yeah.
live in an off-grid water access log cabin, and we just had this like big rainstorm, and the bugs are really bad. There are mosquitoes. It's just a thing.
We're just lucky
Anything
we
else?
have this internet connection, the fact that we're bringing you live, well, not on the recording, but
Oh
you
yeah,
and I are, you're in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. So, um,
I really
I
am.
just, I don't know if I've laughed this much during, I'm kind of trying not to, sometimes we pull clips, right, from these things. And
Mm.
so my editor, Ross, she goes through this, and sometimes I'm always like jumping in when you're saying something good. So I try to laugh quietly, but anyways, I'm having a ball because yeah, you're fighting a mosquito, but also just yeah, all the things that you bring into, you're so authentic, right? And I think that's another thing that when people talk about you, that really comes up a lot, right? I saw you
Oh
speak
really?
at that, yeah, for sure, at that Caps Calgary event, and I know you had to go right after, but it was just like, you just exude who you are. You make no apologies for who you are, and people just like eat that up, I find. And so again, just a perfect example to whether you listen to this or you watch this, of someone who is fascinating because they lean into their themness, if you will, right? Like, so
Oh,
um one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because you're just you're so fun to have around. So thank you for being here. I'm not trying to wrap this up. I just
no,
wanted to jump on that moment when it was happening.
yeah,
um
I appreciate
yeah.
that. And something came up for me that I don't want to forget. Can I take over for a second? Just like
Yeah,
respond to
yeah. I
that?
think this is the,
Okay.
the twist on the twist podcast interview is that you take over.
So, so a couple of things. First of all, I didn't know that people say that about me, and it's exactly what I want people to say about me.
Oh,
So something really that was such a gift. So thank you.
you're welcome.
Um, I really do. It's just wonderful. Um, but I also want to say that, part of the reason that I've built I mean, effectively that's your reputation, your brand, et cetera. Like the reason that people say those things is because even when it's really hard, I tell the truth about things.
Mm,
And so I part of why people come to me and ask me questions, and part of why I get hired as a speaker, and part of why my clients trust me is because I will tell them hard things even if it's uncomfortable, but I won't make it uncomfortable. So an
mm,
example of this is I'm currently working with a client. We are rebuilding a course for them that is quite literally a life or death safety course. Okay. And one of our peers, Donald Cooper, brought me in on the project. Okay. And so and when I say brought me in, introduced me to the client chose to work with me. And so, you know, there have been some hiccups, as there sometimes are with these projects, right? We don't get things sorted the way we want to, or the client thinks they're being clear, but they're clear to themselves because they know, and this happens in every project, not just this one. The client knows so much, and they often, they know a
mm,
lot, but then you start pulling it out of them, and it becomes this huge, amazing project. And it's our job to make sense of what they think is a big mess. And it's the most wonderful thing when the client says, "Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. Like, how do I do this?" And they go from "this is unbelievable, how do I do this?" to "this is unbelievable. How did you figure that out?"
yeah, yeah.
And I do that by saying to them, "Hey, you know what? It does look really messy right now. And you need to know that this isn't going to be a perfectly smooth process. Here's the steps we'll take." And it's always the same steps, or virtually always the same steps. And it's going to feel really awful. And you might actually be really exhausted and frustrated partway through this. But setting them up for that builds the trust in our relationship. So
Mhm.
there's
I,
one
I
example.
I feel like there's something there too, where you talked about delivering or having that hard conversation in a comfortable way.
Hmm.
Is that even in that way, you're still building connection, because
Yep.
sometimes having that difficult conversation in a bad way, is going to force you apart, or is going to have, you're going to have weird feelings associated to that person because of that situation, or what have you, So I think that that's endears you to people even more, right? Making people feel
Yeah.
comfortable. right?
It's interesting. So the other day when I was speaking to Donald, now for those of you who are not familiar with Donald Cooper, he is a brilliant, like he just knows so much. And he was part of the Cooper sports equipment brand. And you know, I say that because I to add some awareness of just how many people this man has interacted with in his life. So the other day I was on the telephone with him and we were working on a separate, completely separate project, having a separate conversation. And he said to me, you know, Twist, there's something I really admire about you. And I said, what's that, Donald? And he said, you can tell people to go to hell and they can be really happy along the trip there. And I thought, Donald, I have never intended that. I have never told somebody that, but it's so interesting that that was
Wow.
his
And
interpretation,
and
right?
if you know Donald, that's the way he would frame it too. Like, because he has kind of an old curmudgeon kind of reputation, like, you know, and he's
He
a
does.
truth teller as well. But
Mhm.
he does it in kind of a not as an elegant way, let's say, as you do. So just in a different style. He has a different style, is what I want to say. But yeah,
Yeah, and I say that because I think it's really important to understand that as much as we try to build our connection and our relationship, that somebody else will always interpret what we're doing through their experience.
yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Everyone has their own filters. They're going to delete, distort, and generalize everything they see and make it fit, you know, their paradigm of the world.
Mhm.
Speaking of a world and a thing that you do, I know when you travel, you love escape rooms. Isn't
I
that
do love
right?
escape rooms.
Can
I
you
do.
tell us a little bit about how you make that work for yourself and, you know, traveling by yourself and doing escape rooms and what is, yeah.
Yeah, so for
Get it?
anybody who doesn't know what an escape room is, it's effectively a real life board game that happens not in a small space, not with the door locked, and in my opinion should be called puzzle rooms for a great number of reasons. One of which is we are not actually trying to escape from things, and some people in the world are right now. So I
Mm.
just want to put that out there to any escape room owners who might have another name that they could pick for their business or way to associate. At any rate, so you go in and there's a theme to the room, and you have to solve a number of puzzles and pick up on clues and do things to make other things happen. So that's in a nutshell what it is. And I have done, I don't know, 115 of them or something at this point, something like that. And so what I do when I speak or when I travel is I find out where they are. And you find out the good ones by belonging to half a dozen Facebook groups. So there's like general ones, and then there's ones for certain areas. Yes, if you're in Florida, Florida has a one all like an escape room group on Facebook all to itself, and it's great. And so I find out where the good ones are according to the other enthusiasts. And then what I do if I'm speaking is I'll book one or two rooms and I take people that I meet. So other delegates that like delegates and attendees of the conferences, I have yet to take my event planners or my meeting planners because they are busy running their meetings. But it's great fun. And then often, you know, I'll go out for like appetizers at 5 o'clock with one group of people, and I'm like, hey, want to do a room later? And whether they say yes or no, I ask the people I go out for dinner with at 7 o'clock because that always happens, you know. And I just take people and we go have a great time. And it's, you know, I have pictures of myself with, so I went to Cleveland to hang out with Jess Pettit and Tamsin Astor, who are also peers of ours. And we did an escape room together. Sanjay and I have done an escape room together. I mean, you could just like list them all down and all over the place, all over Canada, all over the US, all over the UK.
I just love that idea that you just like unsuspecting people that you're interacting with at events, just kind of like, next thing I knew, I was locked in an escape room with her. Like, you know, like it's like, you know, it almost does feel like an escape room because you're like abducting people from the event to go with you. You're inviting. But yeah, I just think that's a unique thing. And it like, again, just, you know, you're creating connection through a mutual experience. You are, you know, creating memories and just going out of your way to do something different and have fun, right? And people, I think there's not enough of that happening in the world. And I think when you rub shoulders with someone like you're just like, I want to live like this. Like they just give you give them a sense of kind of maybe what is possible, right? And I think that's great. Just that you making these waves wherever you go, you know, and they ripple out towards people. So I think I always think it'd be fascinating if we could actually see the influence we have on people, right?
Wouldn't
Like,
that be wonderful?
wouldn't that be amazing? Like that would be maybe if you're enlightened or something, you can do that. I don't know that, but that is quite significant. Before we go too much longer, I have two other things. I want to talk a little bit about slides, okay, and visuals, because you are gifted at that, and maybe, you know, and worked hard at doing that. Also, the other thing that you said, there was a cool gig you did recently. I should remind you.
Oh, yes, that would be part of the slides. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
So it's a twofer. Okay,
it's
so
super.
so yeah, and I've been thinking about that lately too, because I do a lot of emceeing at the trade shows, you know, bringing people in and watching some slides that are made by corporate or marketing or sales enablement. And it's like, I'm like, oh, like the poor speakers, they have a tough enough gig as it is if they're presenting at a trade show, because it's just so distracting and so many people. And then their visuals are not fun or engaging or interesting, or maybe even, you know, just, yeah. So
Oh,
speakers come to you, people come to
yep,
you, associations come to you.
yep,
They say, Twist, help us with our decks, right?
yep,
And you make them way, way better, clearer,
yep.
more engaging, more beautiful. Can
Mhm.
you tell us about what are people doing wrong out there? What should they avoid and maybe work in that gig that you were talking about?
All right, friends. So, first of all, people often make their slides last minute. And I understand some changes last minute because I do them too. You know, I'll be speaking to people right before and I'll think, gee, that's not going to be the best story there. I'm going to swap these out real quick because it
Mhm.
serves the audience better. But in general, my belief is that when we build our decks in advance and we get support, so we go and learn it on our own, or you hire somebody, be it me or somebody else, that we can actually think through our ideas and we become better performers because of it. And so I see my role, first of all, my philosophy as a speaker is that I'm the least important person in the room with the most responsibility. And so if I take that on and I say, Anders, you've come to us because you need a deck, just as an example, my responsibility now is to make sure that your audience feels like the most important person in the room, the way just by the way your slides are designed. And interestingly, I get so many people at almost every time I speak, and I speak very regularly. People will come up, or they'll, you know, if we're doing a Q&A, if it's a breakout session, people will say, I gotta say, your slides are beautiful and they're so easy to follow. Or I love that there's not a lot on your slides. They're so simple. And people often think, oh, well, if it's simple, then, you know, it shouldn't be hard. But the reality is it's harder to do less. And so when Tahira Bellot, who is the director of premium services for the Las Vegas Raiders, called me and said, hey, Twist, can you do a deck for me? That was a really special moment, right? At this point, we've done thousands of slides, thousands of slides. And that was such a neat thing to have happen because they have, you know, there are people, lots of people that she could choose from.
Mhm.
And she chose to have us do it, you know. And I say us, I have full disclosure, I have a team, as I mentioned at the beginning. So we all work together on things. We're a very collaborative and iterative team. And so that was a really special moment with her when that happened, you know. And we've had the privilege, actually, here's another one of the members of our chapter, even though I live in Ontario, I happen to belong to the Prairie Shield chapter of CAPS. And one of our, I know, right? I love it. One of our members is Dr. Kelly Penner Hutton, and we just did 800 slides for her. You know,
Whoa.
like we sometimes we yeah, we do. And we did a project a number of years ago now, and there were 1,500 moving parts to somebody's course that we built for them. And there were 120 lessons, and every one of them had a deck. So, you know, the magic in a deck is like consistency. The magic in a deck is it should feel like a gift to the audience. That's when you know you've done a great job of your deck.
Wow, what a line that is. Like I love two of those things. First of all, that idea of making the audience the most important, you
Hmm.
know, people in the room, and
Hmm.
having your deck do that, but having that slide be a gift to the audience. It's like, just if people are listening to this, just the idea of that, I feel
Hmm.
like makes people want to do a better job,
Hmm.
right? Like because so often your decks are about me, 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 me,
Hmm.
right? And it's just flipping that script and making it easier. Like, and again, what you said about simplifying, you have to work hard to organize your genius that you have, right? And to strip things away that are unnecessary and reveal, that masterpiece within, because it's just, you try to throw it all in there, you're not going to do anyone any favors, because it's just, you confuse, you lose, right? So that's so cool. Okay, well, if people want to reach out to you, and whether like, and maybe you have different places too, Twist, because you've got like multiple things that you offer. How can people reach out to you?
Oh, so this is a really interesting segue into, let's talk about connection in this way, and then
Okay.
we'll wrap up.
Okay.
Friends, I have, at this point, the point of this recording, which is June of 2024, and some of this is about to change, but full disclosure, to this point, I have no demo reel, no sizzle reel for speaking. I have no website, and I have virtually no social media presence. You can build a very successful business without the things that everybody tells you must have. Okay.
Wow.
So, the last tip that I will give you before I go is, if we were at a conference right now, Anders, you might lean over to me and tap my phone with one of those electronic business cards and think it's really cool. Friends, don't ever get one of those. When you meet somebody, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a picture with them and text it to them right away. Okay, that's what I want you to do, because that's going to make a better connection than tapping your phone. And if you want proof that this is not the best thing not the best thing to do, take out your phone, scroll through your contacts list, and tell me how many of those people you don't know.
Yeah.
So here's what you can do if you want to get in touch with me. I'm super easy to reach. I'm twist@withatwist.today. Twist@withatwist.today. And my wonderful right hand, JJ, is wecare@withatwist.today. You can reach out to either of us or both of us.
Wow, that is so cool. And I so love the picture with people and then texting it to them. And it's something we used to do with our clients. We used to get a picture with our client at the end of every event, and then we would send them back a feedback there. We'd get them to fill out a feedback form, and we'd put their picture on it, and we'd kind of have these to collect as things. And somehow it's because we started doing online surveys. We kind of fell out of that. And now we're not taking those pictures, right? And it's just that client relationship piece is, that's one relationship you want, but you're talking about all kinds of people you're meeting. So, and I do totally talk, that those tap cards, I went into that, but you get sucked into the phone. And if someone forgets your name, they'll never remember it, right? Like, they'll never be able to find you. So, really great tips. Twist, thank you so much for being here. The time flew by for me, so we may have to do this again, because I think we can probably go on and dig into all kinds of stuff. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And friends, just reach out, tell the truth, even if it's tough, and see what magic happens.
What a great way to end. Thank you, Twist. And to all of our listeners, you know what to do. Stay engaged.
Thank you so much for listening to Engaging Personalities. If you believe this world needs more engagement and you're an industry leader, or you have an interesting take on rehumanizing business, go to go.engagify.ai/podcast-guest to apply and come on the show. If you got something out of this interview, do you mind sharing it on your social media? Just grab a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend, or post it on the socials. If you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show. Include the hashtag Engaging Personalities. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episode, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, engagify.ai, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and stay engaged.